Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of your UFC Hot Takes. As always, if you want to be in these videos in the future, go over to my community tab and find that designated post. Leave a comment underneath that, and you will most likely be in the following video. Also, if you want to ensure your spot and make sure your hot take makes it in these videos, go to my Twitter and leave a comment underneath that post, and you will for sure be in the next video. Now, without further ado, let's not waste any more time and let's dive right into your UFC hot takes. Yair Rodriguez beats Ilia Topuria due to him struggling with lengthy strikers with kicks like Jai Herbert. I actually really agree here. I think that Yair Rodriguez is the worst stylistic matchup to Ilia Topuria. If you go back and rewatch that Herbert versus Topuria fight, Ilia Tapia had a really tough time dealing with the range of Jai Herbert, and Yair, I think, is somewhat similar or even better than Jai Herbert. And when it comes to just pure stylistic matchups, Yair is the most dangerous fighter for Ilia Tapia to fight. When you just compare Jai Herbert and Yair Rodriguez, you see a lot of similarities, but I think Yair is even better than Jai Herbert in the way he moves, his footwork, his lateral movement, the way he uses his kicks, his head kicks, his calf kicks. I think everything about Yair is a little bit better than Jai Herbert. And yes, I know it was a lightweight. Tapia was moving up a division to fight Jai Herbert. Herbert overall is a bigger guy than Yair Rodriguez, but I think in terms of just pure technicality and the way they fight, Yair Rodriguez has a lot more to offer. There's a lot more on the plate of Tapia to deal with when it comes to Yair Rodriguez. And if Jai Herbert's the one putting you down with a head kick, I think Yair can do you one better. And if the roles were flipped, if it was Yair versus Tapia in that fight, I think Yair probably beats Tapia in that moment. But then again, Yair does have some of the worst ground and pound that I've ever seen in my life. So if that is Yair putting down Tapia like that, he might not be able to finish him, and he might get finished just the same way that Jai Herbert did. Yuri Prochazka beats Alex Pereira if the fight never got stopped. Now, this is a whole what if situation. What if the fight never got stopped in the first place, and then it was just Alex Pereira raining down ground and pound on the head of Yuri Prochazka and then TKOing him? But if Yuri could have survived being dropped by Pereira, he could have made a comeback for sure. I think Pereira was slowing down. He was really struggling with the range of Prochazka. That was really evident. He was getting tagged on the chin so many times. I was worried the entire time watching that fight, and it wasn't really a fluke, but I would say it was a perfectly timed shot that came at the perfect moment, because if that fight went on longer, Yuri could have won. I can see where you're coming from. I can see how Yuri could have beaten Pereira in the later rounds, but who knows what happens in that situation. If the fight doesn't get stopped, maybe Yuri goes out cold and he takes more unnecessary damage, but maybe he survives it, comes back, and he wins. Yuri has survived many other occasions where he's been hurt. Against Volkan Ozdemir, against Dominic Reyes, he was on top, knocked out against Dominic Reyes, and came back and had one of the best KOs we've ever seen. I definitely wouldn't rule out a Yuri Prochazka comeback if that fight never got stopped, but it's a what if. Who knows what can happen? It's MMA. He might have just gotten finished entirely. And then we're all screaming late stoppage. It was terrible. These refs are trash. Get new UFC refs. It could have been a terrible situation, but I can see the other side of that coin as well. Jon Jones would have lost if he was active those 3 years he was out. I think Jon Jones would have lost to some contender coming up eventually at light heavyweight if he never went up to heavyweight in the first place. But that's only if he was active and he was fighting every 6 months at least. But if he only fought the guys who were champions after him, like Jan Blachowicz, Glover Teixeira, Yuri Prochazka, I think he would have beaten all of them, maybe besides Yuri. Jon Jones has beaten Glover Teixeira in the past. I think stylistically that's his best matchup out of the champions. Jan Blachowicz got pretty much, I wouldn't say exposed, but got pretty exploited with the ground game of Glover. And if that's Jon Jones, I can see him doing similar things. But on the other side of this argument, man, Jon Jones lost to Dominic Reyes and Jan Blachowicz smoked him. I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that that was Blachowicz's prime during his little championship stint when he beat Dominic Reyes. But it looked like for a certain period of time, Jon Jones might have not beaten some of these up-and-coming light heavyweights, because these new light heavyweights were looking better than the ones John Jones has faced. All of his wins were kind of aging terribly, like Anthony Smith was losing a bunch of fights. Thiago Santos was losing a bunch of fights. Dominic Reyes got pretty much flattened and has never been the same since. I mean, his wins were not aging good at all. And these new light heavyweights were coming up like Alexander Rakic, Jan Blachowicz. They were all beating former opponents of John Jones. So it really seemed like these new light heavyweights were making a new wave and just looking improved. And John Jones out on the sidelines not fighting. It wasn't a bad prediction to say that he would lose to some of these new light heavyweights. And I really do believe if he was active and did stay at light heavyweight after the Dominic Reyes fight, I think he would have lost. I think he actually saved his career by moving up to heavyweight, or at least saved his GOAT status and his undefeated resume. I don't know, but if Jan Blachowicz fought John Jones after he beat Dominic Reyes, it was going to be very hard to not predict Blachowicz to beat John Jones just by the way he won. Sean O'Malley KOs Ilia Topuria if they actually fight for Sean's champ status. Now, this is definitely in the future. This is a long ways away. I don't know when O'Malley will move up to fight at lightweight, and that is assuming that Ilia Topuria is champion at the time. But if they do fight in the next couple years, I don't see O'Malley beating Tapia, as simple as that. If Ilia Topuria is beating Volk and then beating maybe a couple more guys at featherweight, he is probably going to be cemented as one of the top pound-for-pound fighters at that time. And one thing really underrated about Ilia Topuria's game is his ground game. He can go for takedowns if he wants to. He can grapple. He is an expert on the ground. Like, he is really underrated there. And I think if he does fight O'Malley, I think he'll be able to take him down, I think almost at will at some points, because O'Malley is being babied by the UFC. He's fighting Chito Vera, of all people. He'll probably fight another easy matchup for himself, like a Corey Sandhagen. Not really an easy matchup, you know what I mean, but a guy who doesn't do much grappling. The UFC is going to give him favorable matchups that he can most likely win. Let's be honest here, the UFC is not going to give O'Malley like a Merab Dvalishvili or like somebody who grapples a lot at bantamweight. The UFC is going to make sure they're going to give O'Malley strikers for however long he's champion. And I do think in the next couple years, if O'Malley's still champion and Tapia is champion, if they do end up fighting each other, I'm taking Tapia. But this is MMA. I can't rule anything out. I do think Sean O'Malley does have great chances to beat Ilia Tapia because, like I mentioned before, Tapia does struggle with guys who have a very kick-heavy game plan and guys who are taller, longer, with good lateral movement. Like I mentioned before, Jai Herbert, I think, is somewhat similar build-wise to Sean O'Malley. And so maybe O'Malley does chin Tapia down the road because he just stylistically is a terrible matchup for Tapia. However, I think by that time, Tapia will have a more solid ground game, better takedown offense. I don't think he'll just stand and bang with O'Malley. And listen, Tapia does have power. He might be the one chinning O'Malley because O'Malley's chin doesn't look the most solid. Petr Yan cracked it at one point. Like, he can definitely put his lights out if Tapia lands a good, nice shot on him. So we'll see what happens in the future. I don't think this fight will ever happen, if I'm being honest with you. I think this is very unlikely. I don't know if Tapia will be champion for years upon years. If he's fighting at featherweight, I think eventually he will lose. And the same goes with O'Malley. If O'Malley fights a grappler, I can see him losing down the line, but the UFC will protect him. And so if I'm a betting man, my bet is O'Malley will still have his belt, but Tapia, if he does manage to beat Volk, I don't know if he keeps his belt for that long, because featherweight is one hell of a division. The Cody No Chin Garbrandt title run has officially started, and Figgy is another unfortunate soul in the way. I just don't see Cody Garbrandt beating Davison Figueiredo. I'm sorry. Garbrandt has looked still kind of mid, even against, what was his name, Trevin Jones? I think it was Trevin Jones, not Trevin Giles. But even in that fight, he looked like he was scared to get hit. And even if Cody somehow manages to beat Figueiredo, I just don't see him beating anybody else. I mean, who can he beat at bantamweight at this point, honestly, without getting chinned or getting embarrassed? He couldn't beat Rob Font, and Rob Font right now has looked like not himself at the very best. You know what I mean? I don't see Cody beating Merab. I don't see Cody beating Henry Cejudo. I don't see Cody beating any top bantamweight fighter right now. I think Chito Vera even chins Cody Garbrandt if they happen to fight. I just don't see any good matchups for Cody at the top of bantamweight. So him getting a title shot just seems like it won't ever happen. And I can really just see Figueiredo maybe chinning him or putting him down, or just outstriking him for 3 rounds like how he did Rob Font. Still, I do like Cody Garbrandt. I want him to still keep fighting. I want him to get wins. I want him to be relevant in the UFC still, but will he ever get that mystical title shot? I don't really see it happening, man. I'm sorry. But that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for watching this video up to this point. I surely do appreciate it. This might be a short hot take video for this week. I'm sorry, but you know what? We had a little bit less hot takes than usual, but I'm out here still giving you guys content. But I'm out of here. If you enjoyed, like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for notifications. I'm out of here. Peace.